Am I crazy to say that the Eagles should not draft at pick number 23? You know what they should do? They should trade that pick. Welcome to the Eagles Checkdown, the fastest under 10-minute Eagles podcast there is. Covering news, notes, and opinions jointly produced by the Eagles Pinpool Podcast Network and the STT Sports Network on YouTube. Guys, I'm your host, Phil Stiefel. Do what I tell you to always do. Hit the like, share, subscribe, follow button, whatever it may be. Hit those buttons. All right. So 2 days ago, we talked about one of, in my opinion, two biggest positions of need for this Eagles team still, the safety position. And here we are today, and I'm ready to talk the other major position of need, and it is not the offensive line, which there is a need there, but it's not top two to me. The other position in need is the edge rusher position. Let's break it down. Right now, the Eagles realistically only have 4 edge rushers on their roster. They have Nolan Smith entering his 4th year. Obviously, when Howie Roseman spoke yesterday, I'm sure they're thinking about, they're discussing picking up his 5th-year option. They're probably not going to extend him just yet. Alex Hunt entering year 3, and they signed 2 guys to 1-year deals, and I'm going to butcher both their names, but Arnold Ebiketie and Joe Tyron Shoyika. I don't know, they're both 1-year deal guys, whatever, depth guys, right? And there's the rumors that Brandon Graham might sign another 1-year deal, come back 1 more year. But we went into last offseason in a very similar position. Nolan Smith, Alex Hunt, with Josh Uche and Azeez Ojulari, and nothing else, right? And it was a disaster. We're bringing in Zadarius Smith. We're getting Brandon Graham out of retirement. We're piecing it together. Then we're making a big trade for a 3rd-round pick for Jalen Phillips halfway through the season when that didn't work, right? So the question becomes, do you draft somebody early in the draft at edge? Or what I'm saying to do is you use that pick number 23 in the NFL draft, and you go all in on 2026. All in on making this defense elite immediately. All in on trading for either Max Crosby or Myles Garrett. Now, some people will find that very controversial, say, no, you don't do that. But here, let's break down the 2 names. First, the more realistic option is Max Crosby. He will be 29 when the season starts. He's got 69.5 career sacks. Obviously, he's coming off a torn ACL this past year. You've got about 2 years of control, a very reasonable contract for Max Crosby, $35 million in cap hit next year, and almost $30 in 2027, and then basically an out. You would renegotiate, Max Crosby's contract if you made that trade. You would not be trading him. And look at what the top edge rushers got: Trey Hendrickson, Jalen Phillips. It would not totally break the bank with Howie and how he does caps and contracts. It would be fine. It would not change anything with Jalen Carter. Maybe it affects what you do with Nolan Smith, but that's it. But then you go into the year, because it's not going to cost you Nolan Smith to get him. It's going to probably. Obviously, we saw the trade with the Ravens fall through in some shady circumstances. They had given up 2 first-round picks. I think they got buyer's remorse with that. I think you can get Max Crosby for that pick 23 in this upcoming draft and a 2027 3rd-round pick. I really think, really deep down inside, that's all it would take. Then you renegotiate them and you move on from there. And then all of a sudden, you've got Nolan Smith, Alex Hunt, and Max Crosby as your top 3 edge rushers. Couple that. Jalen Carter coming back healthy. Jordan Davis, another year. Moro Jomo, and maybe his last year with Philly, and everybody else. Ty Robinson, whatever else you draft. Wow. You're talking about a pretty stout defensive line. The other option would be Myles Garrett. Much more complicated because he is going to be 30 all year long. Late in December, he'll turn 31. But he's under contract through 2030. And at the end of his current contract, he's got manageable cap hits this year and next year. But in 2029, he's got a $64.5 million cap hit. In 2030, he's got a $58 million cap hit, and it'll be 35 at that point. Now, there's no doubt that Myles Garrett is arguably the greatest edge rusher of the last 20 years. He's got over 125 career sacks. But for the last, 5 years, 5 years straight of 14 or more sacks, he hasn't had less than 10 sacks since his rookie year, and he stayed relatively healthy. Multi-time defensive player of the year. Arguably, like I said, one of the best edge rushers of the last 25 years. but it's going to cost you a lot to get Myles Garrett. It's going to cost you a first this year. It's going to cost you a first next year. It's probably going to cost you Nolan Smith and maybe even something else. So then you have Myles Garrett, Alex Hunt, and then you'd piece the rest together. But Myles Garrett with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, I mean, God, that would be pretty special. That's a pipe dream. I don't see that happening, offsetting some of that draft capital. If in turn then you did trade A.J. Brown, then you can get one of those first-round picks back. Maybe it works. But you're in a situation. You're in a win-now situation. 2026 is another year where the Eagles are going to be one of the favorites to get to the Super Bowl, to win the NFC, right? They're the favorite to win the NFC East. You've got a great defense, but you've got two glaring holes. We talked about safety, and now we're talking about edge. You fix that edge, boom. You make that edge special right away by making one of these two deals. The other option is you draft somebody. And while they have met with a lot of players, they have only used 2 of their top 30 visits on edge rushers. 19 of the visits have been made so far. The first one that they've done on the edge is Danny Dennis Sutton, Penn State edge. He's projected to be a mid-second round pick. Or Romello Height from Texas Tech. He's projected in the mid-third round. Now, they could go for Malachi Lawrence, I believe his name is, in the first round. They could do something like that. They haven't met with him for a top 30, which lends me to believe that they might not do that because they do tend to draft those guys that they meet with those official meetings. So, we'll see. But those guys, someone like, Danny Dennis Sutton or Romello Heights, they're not sure things. Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, they're sure things. If you want to win one more Super Bowl, you get it done. You get it done right now, and you don't wait, and you don't waste time. Get the deal done. I say do the deal. What do you say? Tune into Trending in the AM live on the STT Sports Network at Thursday at 8 a.m. Bring your thoughts and opinions to it. But for now, guys, tomorrow, I don't know what we'll talk about. We'll go over another position. You know what we'll do tomorrow? We'll talk about targets to trade up for with that first-round pick because that is something else that's on the board. Moving up. Somebody like Lawrence in the first round at edge, you might have to move up to get him. So we'll talk about that and what it would cost to move up in the NFL draft on tomorrow's episode. But for now, guys, everybody have a great day. Go Birds. Let's go Flyers. And always, bubbles up.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.